everybody. Drew Richardson here from ASR Miniature Art with another event review. This time, and forgive the voice, I just got back home. We are going to go over the Warhammer 40,000 World Championships and Grand Narrative. This is the Games Workshop event held every year that concludes their, I believe, four-part GT series that they have running for all of their games. However, in particular, I focus on the Warhammer 40,000 side of it with the Grand Narrative. I'm not going to go into the details of the World Championships for any of the games that were at the venue and the event. I did not partake in those. I don't have any details on them. I don't really follow that side of the gaming at this time, so I don't really have any updates on that. However, I do know everything about the Grand Narrative that I could tell you because I was there. The first thing I want to say is that the event is awesome. This is my second one. This is the second one they've ever done. This is my second time attending, and it has me excited for the third one that's going to happen next year. I had an absolute blast. I went with my friend Justin Combs, who's a good friend of mine. We drove 12 hours from Oklahoma to Georgia, where it was held at Atlanta, I believe at the Hyatt Hotel. Before we get really into the details of how everything went and the pros and the cons and things I wish would change or things that I really like them they did and I wish they would keep and what my plans are for next year, let's kind of just go over what the Grand Narrative is. So this is an event that Games Workshop hosts every year that, from what I've understood, ties all of their other narrative events at their GTs nicely in a little bow to conclude the season and a nice big story that will also impact the lore of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I don't go to all of their GTs, and I have not partaken the narrative side of that, so I can't be certain on that, but that's what I've been told, is that the other GTs they have, when they have a narrative event going on, the story being told there leads up to the story at the Grand Narrative. Now, with that being said, I don't think you need to go to those events to enjoy the Grand Narrative. So if you want to go to those events and do the competitive side of gaming and then just come to this for the narrative because you didn't qualify for the championships or anything like that, I totally think you'd have a blast. I didn't know that those events even had anything to do with the Grand Narrative until this year. So now that's something I plan on going to possibly in the future, is partaking in some of those events, but I don't think it's a requirement. If you want to go to those other GTs for another reason, by all means go at it and then come to this one for the narrative and we'll have a good time with it. As I'm going through the discussion of what the event is and my experience, I'll also be posting up photos. I went and did some cosplay. Justin did a really awesome cosplay. We both went as Chaos Cultists. His costume looks freaking awesome. And there's a couple of other cosplays in there that I'll have up on the screen as well that you guys can enjoy. The Grand Narrative this year was in I think it's the palette system on the planet of Alcataris. I believe that's how a lot of these fake Latin words are hard to say. I can't even say real Latin words half the time. But that was the setting. We were all being called here by a being known as the Command Entity. Now, we didn't know what that was. We just knew that's what we were here looking for. And we had the factions of the Pact of Annihilation, the Pact of Resistance, and the Pact of Enlightenment. Now, that might sound a little confusing because, what does that entail? That was basically the whole event. We didn't know what was going on entirely until we had a briefing about it, and then we would go play games, and then something totally different would happen. We were running around trying to solve this big mystery, this puzzle, the whole time, which was by design, and I really enjoy that. It was a kind of like a murder mystery on a planetary scale. We didn't know who was doing what the whole goal was here, other than that we had our warlords and we needed to follow through with what our warlords wanted us to do. Forgive me, I do not remember the three warlords' names. All I know is that we had this big dude with he's an ex-Cadian with marked by corn with a chain glaive, and he was bad to the bone. That was the Pact of Annihilation's warlord, and that was my team and Justin's team. Now, before we get too far off on the packs, though, the packs were not Imperium Xenos Chaos. They were objective oriented. We found that to be, when we got to the event. However, during sign up, it seemed like the wording of picking your packs made it like this is Chaos, this is Imperium, this is Interlopers or Xenos. Now, this is an oversight by myself, but there were several other people that I feel like had this issue from talking to them at the event. And this is one of the things that I did want to say as it was a con was, but we'll go into later. But people weren't 100% sure what the packs were. It turns out that you could have been Chaos and joined Enlightenment, and you could have been Chaos and joined Resistance, or Chaos and been Annihilation. Your faction did not line up exactly with one of the packs. So I wish I would have known that a little bit going into this because I might have chose a different pact. But hey, it was still a blast, and that's not a big deal. So the packs were there trying to accomplish various different tasks. Packs were making alliances. The Pact of Enlightenment and Resistance kind of were working together at the beginning against Annihilation to try and make sure the command entity was controlled correctly. Annihilation wanted to unleash the command entity and kind of harness its power. We went through, and this is a TLDR, I guess I should say, with anybody who might want to read the lore later. But this is what we learned throughout the battles on the different battlefields of Alcataris. We were completing our faction objectives quite well. We weren't winning that many games, but we seemed to be completing our faction objectives more than most, which is an important thing to note. Because the scoring of this event, we don't know what the exact scoring is, but we know that if you lose the game but you get your faction objective, you're still progressing your faction's victory. The Resistance and the Enlightenment were also having these same goals, but maybe our faction agendas didn't line up exactly with theirs, or the mission or anything like that. So the other warlords, by the way, were for the Pact of Resistance, which is the more Imperium lined up faction. They had an Inquisitor, and the Pact of Enlightenment had a strange witch-like being that we were not sure what she was, whether she was human, Eldari, Chaos. We did not know what she was at the very beginning, just that she was very magically inclined and smart and had her own kind of secret agenda, mentioning pulling weaves and threads of fate and knots and whatnot. The acting, by the way, of these three warlords is phenomenal. Fred and L Designs were two of the three warlords. They also are just an amazing cosplay organization. They do also do commissions. I'm not sponsored by them at all. They probably don't even know who I am. That's quite all right. Their work is fantastic. They did the narrative with us last year as well, and we're also two of the three warlords. I suspect that will be a trend every year, and I hope it is because they are phenomenal. The other warlord, I believe, is the individual who runs the narrative events at the other GTs. And he was our warlord, the Pact of Annihilation, the ex-Cadian Corn Pact individual. So the battlefields that we had, we had like the one was like the Tree Forest Dome, the Scars. We had the Fivefold Forge. We had a tundra and a desert, and we had a Sanctuarium, which that one, by the way, I don't know a ton of the lore about all these locations, but the Sanctuarium was like a whole smorgasbord of different religions that were, and this is represented, by the way, on the terrain. We had basically every table in that battlefield and that room was just nothing but relics, and like this, we'd have statues of Imperium stuff, statues of Eldar stuff, statues of Chaos stuff, and it was like a forgotten garden of religion. This whole planet was a mystery to us, and we didn't know exactly what was going on. Well, to kind of fast forward and kind of spoil everything, turns out the command entity was an AI. Which, if you guys know anything about Warhammer 40,000, AI is really, really bad. The Men of Iron is a thing that almost wiped out, the whole galaxy. Took everybody kind of uniting to stop it. And so, once we all found out it was the AI, we all kind of freaked out. And that's including our warlords. We were all a little hesitant to continue our goal of trying to unleash the command entity or control it. The Resistance faction decided we're going to try to exterminatus the planet. Like, we're going to try to end this. We don't want the AI to get unleashed. Enlightenment I still personally don't know exactly what their goal was, which is some of the challenge, but some of the fun of like the secrecy behind the event. I didn't get to go to their briefings. We all have a morning briefing with all three of the commanders and an evening briefing with all three of the commanders. But then we have, right after the main briefing, an individual briefing with Gesture Pact. So I don't know the full motives of the other packs because I didn't, find out or listen or go sneak into their briefings or anything. Um, However, our pack decided we will offer the AI to Vashtor, and our warlord was going to break his pact with Khorne and join Vashtor and gain power. That kind of caused some problems. A lot of people were like, "No, you can't." I went as a Slanesh cultist, and we were like, "You, I don't like Khorne, but you can't break a pact, man. Like that's not going to end well." But we all got greedy, and as soon as he said we were going to make a deal with Vashtor, not the command entity, because originally we were like, okay, is he going to make a deal with the AI? We're not cool with the AI either. We all just immediately jumped on board and were like souls for the Soul Forge, and just went harder into our faction. We were the hesitant nature we had just shifted entirely. Vashtor, 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 and we just dove hard into it. We ended up, I want to say we got second in the overall campaign. However, it was we didn't win. I know that, and they don't really say the scores or whatever. They just say who won, and then the other warlords kind of get a little end of their narrative and their story. We ended up actually releasing the AI though and offering it to Vashtor because I want to say, from what I've understood, because we did so well on our faction agenda, we still accomplished the faction agenda. So our warlord was like, "We've done it." Like this is the end of the narrative, the big end of the show. He's talking. He's like, "We've done it. I have made a deal with Vashtor to save my soul from Khorne. I've offered him the AI, the command entity. We will be, victorious this day. However, my deal was not for your souls." And he offered our souls up to the Soul Forge. So we lost, but we won. We were all like, normally after the warlords do a thing, no matter what, we all clap, because it's a performance. We all were like, wait, what? When slow clap, like, did we understand that we all just died? Is this really what happened? It was awesome. And it turned out the Enlightenment actually won. And the Enlightenment leader at the end was wearing a bird. They had a bird face. They turned into a Tzeentch demon prince. So it turned out the whole time we were all being played by Tzeentch, which is wicked. I think that is so cool. We got totally fooled. Nobody knew what she was the whole time because she kept, and this is something cool as well. The characters progress. Day 1, they look a little like, kind of clean cut, normal. Day 2, they add battle wear and damage to their armor and their faces. By day 3, they look bloody. So she, over the course of the 3 days, turned into a demon prince and was full bird by the end of the campaign. And it was epic. It was so cool. I apologize. I did not get photos of all this stuff. I'll see if I can find it by the time before I post this and slip it in. But it was epic. Oh my goodness, it was so cool. So Enlightenment won, which, unrelated note, L's 2 for 2 now. So good job, L. you're rocking and rolling. You're 2 for 2 in the grand narratives. Your factions. Because I was with Interlopers last year when Elle was an Eldari witch captain, I think, and we won last year, so that's pretty cool. And the quote-unquote Interloper-ish faction is now 2 for 2 as well, which is pretty cool. So she took all her followers and was like, cool, we're getting out of here. We did what we needed to. We unleashed this AI and played everybody for fools and destroyed the planet and whatnot, yada, yada, yada. The Inquisitor, though, for the Resistance faction, we all watched the Inquisitor get convicted of heresy because he worked with the Tzeentch Demon Prince against us at one point. Not, and then there's a priest, there's a Vestroyan, there was a woman dressed as a Vestroyan, like Commissar, and we had a Catachan. We had a ton of different forces there for the Imperium side. They did a full-on judge, jury, read his rights, or read his crimes out, and executed him in front of all of us. It was insane. They put a bolter to his head and bang. Next thing you know, boom, on the presentation board, we should see like somebody did a demographic of blood just all over the screen. It was intense. It was, oh my gosh, it was so cool. The Inquisitor died. The Zinj Demon Prince ascended. Our leader technically got victory for himself, but not for us. And it was just, it was phenomenal. It was so cool. So that's the summary of the story of the event. I feel like our faction did super well, all things considered. I absolutely love, and this is not, you guys can watch my other videos, and you can see me talking about GTs for the competition side I do for stuff, and you can tell that this excitement is totally genuine, because I'm not this radically pumped in all my other videos. I'm excited, but not like, I can't help but smile as I'm telling you guys all this, because it was just so cool. I had an absolute blast, and I am so pumped for next year. The story is so fun. Justin and I are definitely going to be doing this every year, as far as we can tell. The idea of the grand narrative being something that we can just go and relax and just have fun and tell a story and enjoy means a lot to us from a hobby perspective. Because sometimes you don't want to just go and roll tons of dice and try to compete, and then you're just, I don't want to play a sweaty game every time. So, so speaking of the games, and then let me show you this excitement through the fact that I went 0-6. I lost every game. I lost every game. Justin went 1-5, and he's more pumped than I am. He's already building models for his army next year. He's talking to people about getting cosplays done, and so he's even more excited. So we got our butts kicked, and we're still just going after it right now. So the games I played, I had a lot of really fun opponents. I'm gonna apologize, I don't remember all of your names. But round one, I played against an opponent, Garrett, who is with. Let me pause real quick here, guys. He's with a store up in Washington State, and I believe they have a YouTube channel that I definitely want to try and plug here, because Garrett was definitely one of my best games. He is with the Rain City Wargaming. They've got an Instagram. Go check it out. They I believe have a YouTube channel. Yep, they have a YouTube channel, Rain City Wargaming. Go check it out. Garrett was phenomenal. He was such a fun opponent. He was playing Space Marines, and he brought basically whatever Callus Rex is, but the non-character version, the non-Callus Rex version. He brought a couple tanks, a couple of aggressor squads, and my list that I played pretty much the whole weekend was like a 10-man Possessed squad, a couple Noise Marine squads, some Terminators, 3 Predators, 4 Obliterators, a 4-man Obliterator, and a big Legionary 10-man squad with like Masters of Possessions and a Demon Prince and stuff everywhere. We had a super close game. I think I ended up losing by like 5 or 10 points. Unfortunately, which, mind you, this is the only time this happened, we went to time, so we didn't get to finish the game. We only finished 3 turns, but and I feel like I probably could have won that game, but neither here or there. I was able to get my faction objective, and he was not, but he ended up winning the mission. So we had a ton of fun. We were just talking and joking around the whole time, and I don't even care about finishing the game because I just had a blast. After that, game 2, so we did 2, 2, and 2 for the days. So one day, two games. Second day, 2 games. Third day, 2 games. The second game I played against, let's see if I can, just got my Instagram pulled up here. Because I remember my opponents, but I don't remember who all. Oh yeah, that's right. We played against one of the Goonhammer guys, who is also named Garrett, and he brought an Iron Hands list that was just, I think it was like 5 dreadnoughts, like 2 or 3 tanks, and just tons of firepower. I got completely tabled. I mean, technically I had like a Noise Marine Sergeant left alive. That was it. I had 1 model on the board. He wiped me. Oh my gosh, it was brutal. It was a little unfortunate because there was not the kind of a list I would have expected at a grand narrative. It seemed like a little bit more of a competitive list, which is a trend that I unfortunately saw through most of the time I was there. Justin was getting to play against people that were having, they were bringing wacky fun units that you would never take to a GT. Several other people I talked to were running the same issue, or they were at least being narratively inclined. Like, I don't know if my opponent had even names for their stuff, or if they had some kind of goal they were trying to accomplish. Garrett in round one from Race City Wargaming, his whole thing was like, we are Space Marine hunters. We're like if the Death Watch was just for Space Marine hunters of all kinds. And had a really cool story. He named all his units. Every single one of his units was named. It was awesome. Garrett in round two from the Goonhammer group, he was a really cool guy, and we laughed and had a lot of fun, but it felt very much like a tournament game, not a narrative. It felt like a competitive GT game, not a narrative game, and that's a little unfortunate. But hey, neither here nor there. You got to play what you got to play. Then in round three, I played against an individual named Gabe, who was in full naval officer cosplay, which is really cool. He was playing Custodes. I've not played against Custodes, and it was definitely a slog. He tabled me as well. I just didn't know a lot of what they had, and there were definitely some gotcha moments that were unintended, combined with he offered for the rest of the weekend to buy me new dice. I don't think I rolled a single save the entire time. He had a squad of just random dudes kill Abaddon. I tried to swap Abaddon in because I was doing so bad, and I was like, I painted this really badass model. I want to try it out. It was just a really bad game, and it felt rough. It did feel like a bit of a tournament game, more than it did a narrative game as well. But hey, at least he was in cosplay, and he seemed like he was very genuine about, he didn't want to be doing what he was doing either. Like, nobody wants a game like that, right? We want ups and downs and back and forths, right? Nobody wants to just complete landslide, because that's not a fun story to tell. So that was round three. Round four, I played against another Goonhammer individual, Andrew, who was playing Adeptus Mechanicus, and super big shout out to the Goonhammer guys and to Andrew specifically. To my understanding, he's the individual who has set up Administratum and does all the programming, whatever, computer lingo stuff, for the Administratum. The Administratum is a Goonhammer web app that lets you keep track of all of your Crusade games and all of your experience for your units, gives you your battle honors, and he set it all up, and then they let everybody use it for free at the Grand Narrative. So really big shout out to you guys. Normally I know it costs like a Patreon subscription or something like that to use it. We really appreciate you guys coordinating with GW to let us be able to use this tool, and also to give us access to the whole thing for free. I've had campaigns completely in because people were just sick of the bookkeeping. There's no headache involved with the app. I love it so much. I am excited to use it again, and I'm really excited to see where you guys go with it on improvement, because I know, Andrew, in our game you were talking about some things you were already excited for. Like one of them was like, we still don't have a way to do live tallies like during games. I was using a Google Keep or like a little scratch piece of paper, as you were as well. And that's something that you're looking at doing as well. And I'm just so excited to see where you guys take that. So thank you very much. This was another game where I definitely got tabled. And again, unfortunately, it was another one of those games that I don't know that really kind of what was going on narratively. I just saw a bunch of Cataphren Breachers just shoot everything, and I died, which is unfortunate. Round 5, I played against another really fun individual. They have a podcast. Let me see if I can recall their name. Dennis, that's right. Dennis from Preferred Enemies, which is a podcast that I guess him and some of his friends run. I had just an absolute blast against Dennis. He was in full Votan garb, and so he had the wool trench coat and goggles on, and the Votan logo t-shirt and everything, and he was playing Votan, and I had never played against Votan. And I want to just sidebar real quick here. It was really nerve-wracking to me that we played Marines back-to-back, and I was so scared that we were going to play Marines the whole weekend. So I'm just so thrilled that I got to play against a different faction every game but 2. And if I fight Space Marines only twice during an event, I'll take that as a win. I was expecting to play them every game, and if I would have only had to play them half the time, I would have been excited. So excited for that. I think a lot of what was going on in my games is I just didn't know what was going on, because I haven't played 40k a lot this year with 10th edition, because the launch was a little rocky. And then what 40k I have played has been with Orcs and our Crusade. We needed a Xenos war leader for our local Crusade, so I had to pick up my orcs, and I couldn't play. I could not play Chaos Space Marines. So I didn't really know a ton of what was going on, and I hadn't played against a lot of the armies that I went up against. I hadn't played against any of the Marines with the new Codex, hadn't played against Custodes ever, hadn't played against Votan ever. I played against Admech once, and it was with my orcs. And so I was just kind of, I feel like that's where a lot of during the games, it felt kind of bad. After day one, I was really or after day two, I was really not feeling it. And I think that's where a lot of it came from. Justin had a similar thought about that from my experience as well. So next year, we're going to try and do a little bit better prep on understanding our rules and maybe playing against some different armies to try and get prepared. Just so that way, if we do lose, we can feel like we did everything we could to prevent that loss. This year, it felt like I kind of just got rolled because I didn't know what was going on at all. But Dennis was really fun. We had a really cool game. Dennis was talking about how he doesn't agree with the Enlightened Pack Leader, their warlord. So he went out of his way to not do the faction agenda. He's like, I'm not going to do it. I refuse to. And we made a gentleman's agreement that my Demon Prince would accomplish my faction objective if I did not kill his warlord. So while he did table me, there were definitely some opportunities for me to go in and just blitz his warlord and kill him before I got tabled, and I refused it. I went ahead and just agreed to get the faction objective and let him get fame, because there was fame and infamy are some character-specific traits that they have at the narratives, which by the end of the narrative, they pick one person who got the most fame, one person who got the most infamy, and had a good record and blah, 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 and their character kind of gets put into the lore. And so I agreed to let him get fame, and I went and hid like a coward in the back lines, capturing an objective, but accomplishing my faction agenda. So game 6, the last game, I want to just say that this saved my whole weekend. This game, first game, amazing. My 6th game, amazing. I was so happy to be able to start and end on a really good note. I played against Rory, who, I apologize, Rory, I don't recall if you have a podcast or anything like that, or any kind of a social media presence for like a channel or anything. But I do know that Rory has a Instagram with a lot of really cool looking art on it. And let me see if I can just put that in here real quick. Should have been a little more prepared. Rory of Attack, and that's VETACK. He played Tau, and I have to say that, holy smokes, did I have a good time. I played Tau last year, and so being able to play against them this year and kind of get to see my old army on the table across from me, and I hadn't played against them or played with them in 10th yet, was really cool. It was kind of like a big callback, and Rory's models are phenomenally painted. He did a Farsight Enclaves list, and his whole list was built around if he was the 8, which is a group of suit commanders in the lore that Farsight, they're like Farsight's trusted, group of baddies. So like there's a Riptide, there's a Broadside with all missiles, there's a couple of Cold Stars and stuff, and suit commanders, and his whole campaign, he was playing Farsight and the 8 with his warlord was I cannot remember the name, but it was a generic Cold Star commander that he had named, and the whole point of his Crusade experience was this guy is trying to earn his spot in the 8. So it was really cool. There was a lot of narrative touch to the army. For having a named character, which I'm not a big fan of in Crusade, I like to play no-named characters as much as I can. It felt very natural. That Farsight was there with his big baddies, and this new guy was trying to earn his spot in the 8. And his list was awesome. It was a ton of suits. It was really cool to see. It's everything you want to see for Tau, all the suit commanders and stuff. You had one Devilfish with Breachers in it and a squad of Pathfinders, and everything else after that was suits. It was so cool. Ghost skills even are awesome too. I guess they have Lone Operative now, which is freaking awesome. It was just really fun game. Rory ended up winning, which, hey, I already told you I went 0-6. That's not a big surprise. But I had an absolute blast getting to play against Rory and all of my opponents. There was, even the hard times, I can still see I had fun this whole trip. So that's the recap of my experience and also the summary of the event. I don't really want to get too deep into the pros and cons, especially not the cons, because regardless of any of the cons, I think the event was an A+ event, and I'm going again. But if by some chance this gets to any of the staff at the event, just know that I love you guys, and this is not meant to be any kind of a disrespect or anything. More of just a hope that you can do something with the information. And to all the players that are thinking about going, take this information and use it to help make decisions. That's what all of these event reviews are for. From my channel is I try to be just totally honest and unbiased about everything, so you guys can make more educated decisions on events you want to attend. So the cons that I have were kind of not even really things with the event. They're more like structural things. So communication, you guys felt pretty proud of the communication. I felt like communication was kind of rocky, especially day one. It improved 100% throughout the event. But day one, we were kind of like, what's going on? And you guys are putting stuff in Discord, but it didn't seem like it was getting through all the Discord channels or into the different battle groups. And I don't think there was a moment where I wasn't asking, what are we doing? What's this? By the end of the event, you guys had the local, the room judges announcing everybody's fame, infamy, pack, tactics, and missions and whatnot. And I feel like that's what it should have been from the beginning. And I appreciate that you guys made that hasty adjustment. So maybe just start with that next year, and go from there. The other one was, and this is totally subjective, the swag bag. So the swag bag, the premium swag bag, cost $115. The ticket itself cost, I want to say it was like $340. I have a total here. I spent $455 just on my swag bag and my ticket for the event. That's a very expensive ticket. I don't pay that kind of entry fee for even a bag or anything to any other event I attend. This is the most expensive premium ticket I pay all year round for any tournaments I go to. And I don't enjoy that, even if I do get some goodies. The swag bag came with 6 objective markers, which are just poker chip objective markers. We got a challenge coin. We got a t-shirt. We got the two con exclusive minis, the Commissar and the Age of Sigmar guy. We also got a dicey pack, which is a fanny pack for dice, which was unique. And we got a drawstring bag. And I think there might be some other stuff that I'm forgetting there. Oh, we also got a coffee mug thing, or coffee thermos thing. The challenge coin in the swag bag did not have faction logos on it. That was a huge letdown to me, because last year we had a backpack we got with a faction logo, a coin with a faction logo, and I know that the factions were a little ambiguous this year, but I still would love to see an attempt made at getting the faction coins or the challenge coins to have a faction representation on them in the form of like some kind of iconography. You still put like the Paladin system in there, and I think our faction and identity and stuff, but some kind of a symbol for the factions to use, I think, is definitely the best way to go. The drawstring bag, could have took it or leave it. The fanny pack was cool. I thought it was cool. Some people I heard complaining about it. It's definitely not the backpack we got last year. The backpack we got last year was phenomenal. And I feel like you guys kind of just threw the drawstring bag in there because you were like, well, they need a bag. So, I don't know. Again, that's all subjective stuff. The ticket is really expensive, though. And I may or may not be doing the swag bag next year, depending on what all we get. Because when I purchased it initially, it sounded like it was going to be pretty, right on. And we also, I think it just said objective markers. I think a lot of people are on the illusion that you were going to give out the nylon, or the neoprene, objective markers, not the $10, $15, $20, whatever, poker chips. So, anyways, I don't want to really linger on that. The 3 warlords and the overall packs, as I mentioned earlier, were a little confusing. I think during the event, the confusing part for the story you were trying to tell was phenomenal. However, the stuff leading up to the event needs to be a little more clear, I think, on what we're choosing, because some people wouldn't have been in the groups they were in. We had some people that were like, I couldn't join my battle group from last year because there's a Tyranid player in the Imperium. Why is there a Tyranid player in Resistance? Or there's a Tau player in Annihilation? Or, you know what I mean? And so I feel like we need some more obvious structure for when we're picking our groups, so that way there's not any confusion on that. To boot, this year, and this kind of goes into the communication part, and also into the Warlords and confusing part. You guys sent us some emails throughout the year. I feel like we had way more communication before the event last year and had access to the Discord sooner than last year. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I'm not going to go track it. But the sooner we get all of this information and the ability to communicate with battle groups and have, a better understanding of the lore before we even get there, the higher chance we're going to have of being able to enjoy the experience and have already gotten to know people. I couldn't tell you any of my battle group members' names because I didn't communicate with them at all, because I didn't really feel like we had a lot of opportunity to. And also, they're kind of were just like scattered. So that's not, again, nothing really you guys can do. But if you have any ideas that you can give to help kind of harness that communication and make sure it gets funneled in the right places and people get to go be with the right groups, and just make sure that we're making educated decisions. If you can do anything about that, I think we'd all really, really appreciate it. This one is really the biggest. Forgive that ding there, guys. Sorry about that. This last one, though, there's two last ones, are both probably the biggest actual complaints that I have. One of them was we had quite a bit of time between rounds and briefings and stuff. I mean, we're talking about like you finish a round, we got like 3 hours before we do the next thing. But for some reason on day one, I didn't even get to finish my game. So it felt like there was some structure there. I don't know that we followed the event, itinerary at all. I don't know if we did. I don't really like having a ton of time in between stuff. I'd rather get stuff done. We probably could have played another game or two the whole weekend, and like we probably could have done 3-3-2, and I think that would have been a blast. The other thing about it was like, if time is going to be like that, we could probably also play 1,000-point games in between all that. And I know we have after-hour play, which is awesome. They had kill team and tables were available. People wanted to play, they could just play. And people played overnight, and you can grow your Crusade force overnight as well. But to me, and 1,000-point games were missed. There was a lot of people, myself included, that were like, wait, day one we're not doing 1,000 points? We did 2,000 points all weekend. I think a lot of people missed being able to play 1,000-point games. A lot of people, myself included, narrative forces are designed to be like, this is the scouting party, 1,000 points, that grows once the rest of the force gets here. I would love to do like a 3-round day one with 1,000 points, and I think the games will go quicker. You could do 3 rounds. You could maybe even do 4 in the same amount of time we would have done 2,000-point games. I don't know, but I think 1,000-point games were missed, and we would all really, I think, appreciate getting to see that back, especially if it meant we got to play more games. I think the big scare is people don't want to play a bunch of 1,000-point games because we only get 6 rounds. Well, if we did 8 rounds, but 2 of them were 1,000-point, then I think people would really appreciate that. And I don't think there'd be any headaches about it. The gap between time and stuff and the 1,000-point games is a big deal. But also, this is maybe a struggle with the venue, and I don't know how you guys can do this because other than just doubling down on the immersion. Half the rooms we played in didn't feel like I was in a battlefield. So let me explain that to those that are watching this video and didn't go to the narrative last year or this year. You have, I think it's 5 or 6 battlefields. It's 6 battlefields. You have 6 battlefields, which are basically just rooms in the hotel with tables set up. The goal of the narrative, from what I've understood with the GW staff, is to make sure that when you go into your battlefield, you feel like you're in that battlefield. An example of that is the Deep Forest Dome this year. When you go in, it's a little muggy, it's a little cramped. There's a lot of vines and like camo stuff, and it looks like you're in, Predator or Rambo, the movie, like playing your game. You're in a Catachan jungle. That is phenomenal. I want that immersion. I want to feel like I am fighting in the Deep Forest Dome when I'm rolling my dice. I feel like more of the rooms this year lacked that. A lot of that I think is because the Fivefold Forge and the Sanctuarium were in huge rooms, so you couldn't really show what their theme was. You couldn't really get immersed. Um, the ice room was all cold blue, low light, all everything felt blue, and it was very cold in there. That was awesome. The Sanctuarium last year at the Grand Narrative had really dim lighting. We were basically playing by candlelight, and we had nothing but like oh choir music playing. The priest was just reading rites from his inquisitorial book the whole time. There was a shrine with a bolter and a banner on it. That stuff was awesome. The Sanctuarium last year was my favorite room of the whole event. It really was a great start to the event. I felt totally immersed in what was going on, and I feel like two of the six rooms didn't really have a lot of that at all. And then you had some rooms where it's like, yeah, there's some crates in the room, and this is the warehouse battlefield, and it's like, all right, that was okay last year when that was like the only one, but now we're lacking even more and more immersion. I don't know what you guys can do for that, but maybe think about what kind of battlefields need that much space and what ones could use a smaller space to feel like we're like the Sanctuarium. I think if it was in a smaller room, we would have seen the shrine. Some people didn't even know there was a shrine in the room. We would have seen the shrine on the corner, and to be fair, the shrine was just a skull and some candles. It didn't even have the bolter and the banner or anything like that. I think it needs to be in a smaller room. And so I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but I just wanted to make sure I provided that feedback. Let's now go into the pros of the event. And the pros of the event, some of them are definitely subjective because they're specific to me. They're my experiences. But the things that I want to say that are like structural, organizational things that were phenomenal. What I would say the store and the staff of the event, even the ones that weren't involved directly in the narrative but were still assisting, you guys are phenomenal. You guys did an amazing job. This event seemed like it was, for all the headaches that I mentioned, the event felt like it ran very smooth. I had an absolute blast. And that was the general consensus I seemed to get from everybody I was talking to, is that we had a good time. You guys were very great. The store had plenty of stuff in stock, it seemed like. I don't remember hardly anybody saying I couldn't find this or that. There were some things, but it's nothing. Who knows who could have bought it already? And people also didn't seem to think that they could just ask, and you guys would have had stuff in stock in the back too. So anytime I went up though to interact at the counter, I had a wonderful experience. I bought a couple of Forge World things that's what I try to do at these events, is buy Forge World stuff because I don't like to drive to Dallas or have it shipped to me. I just kind of wait for the narrative to pick it up. So unless it's something I need for the narrative, of course. But you guys were awesome. Staff and the store, everything, the whole ambiance outside of the narrative felt really good. On top of that, the tarot card system. Now, the tarot card system, when we all registered, we were given a tarot card. Anytime we went to a battlefield and our battle group was assigned, we played at the table that had our tarot card on it. So I was Galaxy. I'd go look for the Galaxy table, and I would play there every time. It's essentially a reskinned table number, but it's cool because our character now has this fate. My fate is of the Galaxy. What does that mean? Does it mean my fate chooses what happens to the Galaxy? Is my fate to conquer the Galaxy? Is my fate to just go into the Galaxy? I don't know, but my character got to try and find that out the whole time. But it also was just me saying, this is the table I play at, and this is who my opponent's going to be. I think that's so cool. It's like every battle group got, one, each player in every battle group got one of these different tarot cards, and that's what sent them to their tables to play at, based off of their location and stuff. That system is very smooth. Nobody, I think, had any kind of confusion on who they needed to play against or where, and it is very cool and thematic and immersive. So, biggest improvement. That I know that sounds so weird, but that was, to me, definitely the biggest improvement from last year. We got a tangible piece of the narrative to take home with us, and it also helped make sure the event was organized better and games got done right. That is so cool. I love that. I think that is just phenomenal. The venue also, by the way, Georgia was a bit of a drive. Justin and I drove 12 hours and also lost an hour because of the time difference. I like New Mexico as a whole, which is where it was last year, but this venue was better than New Mexico venue for sure. I like this venue a lot more. I think I had a lot more comforts in this venue. The elevators were crazy. They felt like the Willy Wonka, glass elevator or whatever. And I like this venue a lot. I think it was a good venue. The last of it is stuff that's mainly specific to me, but I'm sure others share this feeling. A lot of this event is about seeing old friends and getting to enjoy the immersion of the event from like the Voxel Callum, which is the room judges, the warlords, the people in cosplay, the other opponents who are also telling a story with their characters. And this all also adds a hype for next year. So I loved every single bit of the room judges were all in character, the Voxel Callum. They were very informative. They seemed way more informative than last year, which not saying they did bad last year. I think they're probably the best thing, the best consistent thing of the event. You guys have amazing room judges that stay in character and tell a really good story about the battlefield we're in. They're one of the key components of this whole thing working smoothly and feeling immersive and having a cool story. And I think they do a phenomenal job every single time. I absolutely loved every single one. You added some more this year, and they were freaking awesome. The ones from last year that returned were just as great as they were last year. And then also the old friends I got to see from old battle groups and people that opponents I had played last year, and the new friends I got. This is basically making a external family for me to revisit every year, and I'm very excited to see where this continues to go for me as a player and a hobbyist, but also as somebody who just wants to go have a good time and make friends. That might sound really corny, but that's I mean it's all about having a good experience, and that's what that is for me. The immersion was overall really good. It was there. I had a lot of fun, and I'm just really excited for next year. That's all I've got to say about it, guys. I hope I didn't linger on anything too long. A+ event overall. Again, I hope I gave a good recap of the story. I hope I didn't sound too whiny with the cons, but I hope I gave you guys some good information about what to expect with the event and whether or not you want to go. And if you ask me, I think you need to sign up. All right, guys, have a good one.